Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Monday. The the 19th of January, 2026. Listen, if I haven't seen you before, or if you haven't seen me before, I should say, welcome to According to Wingnut. I'm Wingnut. Anyway, I just wanted to get back on here, and I've gotten a few letters from the courts after my brother-in-law's sentencing and stuff like that. So I just thought I would go over some of the charges. I said in the last video that the next video, which is this one, I would go over a few of the charges and kind of discuss some of the stuff that we are expecting. I suppose if everything goes according to plan, which, good Lord, who knows if that will ever happen. You know, I hear of murder cases being done in like 3 weeks or a month or whatever after the first hearing, and then they quibble about this or that, and then they take a plea deal like a couple months into it. I'm sure that the investigation and all that started way before that. But our case, with an awful lot of evidence that they had to pour over and all that, and you know, their house 2 doors down being raided and this and that, which we didn't even know they were going to do anything like that. But it actually came kind of as a shock and a surprise to Dad and I. But we were at the hospital because Dad had just had surgery when we found out about that. The police had come in and done several interviews even in the hospital. We had our family attorney in there. He came and visited us, and we discussed what was going to happen, what Dad wanted for changing any wills or trust documents or anything like that. So that all took place. People ask, you know, what did you guys think when you first saw this? I mean, did you think about what you were going to do? And yes, of course, because once we found out, I thought that the very first thing that we needed to do was go to Dad's pastor and ask him what he thought we should do, because I wanted to get some clarity, you know, about this whole situation. So that's what we did. That was number one thing. We went to Dad's pastor. So the following morning, when we found all this stuff out, we went to his pastor and we said, hey, look, this is what's going on. We don't even know what's going on, but this is what we're suspecting. And what do you think? And he told us, immediately go to the police, go home, use bathroom, whatever, and then go directly to the police, and then call your family attorney and change whatever documents need to be changed to write them off, to get them out of the whole picture of everything, because they've already taken what would have been, they took more than their share. Let's put it that way. So therefore, that's basically what we did. We followed the pastor's instructions, and we went to the police not because we knew they were guilty or anything, because at that point we still had no idea. We had suspicion, things didn't look right, but since Mark wasn't going to talk to us about the envelopes that we had been receiving while they were in Europe and all this other stuff that wasn't right, that didn't look right, he wasn't willing to talk to us about anything. He just ran out the door. And because of that, we needed help. We needed clarity. We needed somebody to explain to us what was going on. So that's what we did. And we went to the police, and they helped us out. And the investigation took a year. Well, actually, it took from June call it June of 23 to June to August of 24. That's when it broke in the news. In the meantime, my sister had come over at two separate occasions to harass us, or me particularly, because she came over with the blower and she was blowing dirt into the room here, pulling flowers I had planted and throwing them at the window right at me. And then another time, she came in at 3:26 in the morning and smashed my window. I will discuss that at a later time, but we hadn't even heard the final report yet. We hadn't even heard anything. It hadn't made the news, nothing. We were only getting little tidbits of what they thought was going on, and until they came over in August of 24 and had a serious sit down of what they found, that's when they asked Dad, do you want to press charges? And he had been saying all along he did. So he decided to press charges, and that's what they did. So the case finally was resolved on December 30th of 2025, just a few weeks ago, right in between Christmas and New Year. And he took a plea deal. So here's what the case charges were. There's 14 felony counts. I don't know if you can read that. I'm going to try and screenshot this and stick it up here. 14 felony counts. He was sentenced December 30th, 2025. They dismissed 13 of them. The bottom 13, all dismissed, but they're all repetitive. And so what it was is they could only go back 7 years. That was the statute of limitations. So each one of these is a charge of a 6-month block. They said that they could only go back 7 years, but from the evidence, it's not like they found a date where it started to ramp up and they started taking little bits and then went more and more. No, this was like full on. It was already ongoing. They couldn't go back any further than 7 years to find where they started. So in other words, it had been ongoing for some time. Don't know how long, but for at least that long. So each one of these is a 6-month block of where the charge is called. It's 609.52.2, and then in parentheses an A, and then another parentheses a 1. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's what the charge in the statute is, and it is called theft, take, use, transfer, movable property, no consent. Penalty statute, and then the numbers I just gave. It's a theft value over $5,000 or trade secrets, explosives, controlled substance, 1 or category 1 or 2. But this was for $5,000 or more that he took during a 6-month period. So it was definitely more, because every month there was a minimum of $2,000 a month that was taken. Some months was $32,000, right? So right before they took off for their European vacation, he withdrew $32,000 of money from Dad's equity account, transferred it into the trust account, where he could then have that money transferred into wherever, or he could go to the bank using dad's information and withdraw the money. So that top one is the one he was convicted of, which is a 6-month period. And then the other 13 counts were dismissed in the plea deal. And they were all felonies. He was looking at 145 years for taking the $420,000 in cash from my dad, plus the $30,000 for the house, or for the mortgage he took against Dad's house. Dad's house was paid for. And plus the 10 lines of credit, which amounted to another $60,000 or $65,000. That's in addition to the $420,000, right? So, I mean, this guy was living high off the hog. So he is ordered on December 30th, 2025 to commit to the Commissioner of Corrections at the Minnesota Correctional Facility in St. Cloud for a period of 12 months. And that sentence, and that's a state prison, and that sentence is stayed for 5 years. So in other words, he didn't actually have to go do that time. It's just hanging over his head. So he's got 12 months hanging over his head. 365 days of prison time for one felony count. Normally they are charged, if he were to have taken this to trial and found guilty, they're charged anywhere from 7 to 20 years per felony. So even if at 7 years, he was looking at 145 years. 145 years is what it came to. This sentence consists of a maximum term of imprisonment equal to 2/3 of the total executed sentence. So in other words, he didn't even have to do the full year. And a maximum supervised release term equal to 1/3 of the total executed sentence, unless the sentence is life or life without the possibility of release. So, local confinement. So he still has to do a little bit of time. 1 weekend. Woohoo! Yeah, I would take that deal. Oh my gosh. Local confinement. Ordered on December 30th, 2025, defendant is sentenced to 4 days in the county jail, Washington County Jail. Defendant is to serve 4 days. Serve 1 weekend in jail from 5 p.m. on Friday, so that would count as day 1, through 6 a.m. on Monday, day 4, at a date designated by the court. Weekend to be done by 4/1/26. So they were asking the court, can he do it like the last weekend of March? Because I've got birthdays and stuff and all kinds of stuff coming up that I need to prepare for. All right. Monitoring. Ordered December 30, 2025. Defendant is placed on supervised probation for 5 years. Monitored by the Washington County Community Corrections. So it's up to them how strict they are absolutely going to be. So this is where it gets interesting. This is the rest of the rest of the conditions that I'll read to you. Mind you, all of this is public knowledge. You can go to the website and look it up. It is case number 82CR243080. You would think I'd have that memorized by now after 2.5 years. More than 2.5 years. All right, so here we go. Conditions. Ordered on December 30th, 2025. Defendant must comply with the following conditions. Follow all state and federal criminal laws. Contact your probation officer as directed. Tell your probation officer within 72 hours if you have contact with law enforcement. Tell your probation officer within 72 hours if you are charged with any new crime. Tell your probation officer within 72 hours if you change your address, employment, or telephone number. Cooperate with the search of your person, residence, vehicle, workplace, property, and things as directed by your probation officer. So if he's got a storage unit, they can even come into his work and do a search. Sign releases of information as directed. So probably having to do with healthcare or mental care or whatever. Give a DNA sample when directed. So that was the thing that the judge said that he needed to do, was submit his DNA to the federal system. Do not use or possess firearm, ammunition, or explosives. He's a convicted felon now. Can't be anywhere near that stuff. Have contact with probation within 24 hours and provide your updated contact information, including address, email, and telephone number. Provide access to all financial and bank holdings, statements, upon request of the supervising probation officer. Any position of future employment involving fiduciary responsibility shall be approved by the supervising probation officer. What's interesting is that the judge said, as part of her order, he was not allowed to have any fiduciary responsibility whatsoever. That means he can't have any kind of managerial position. He can't run a cash register. He can't oversee other people or things that belong to somebody else, because that automatically implies a fiduciary responsibility. So that makes it really difficult. He can't oversee anybody at that point. Obtain cognitive skills evaluation and follow the recommendations. So I had a question about that one. What are the cognitive skills evaluations? So in other words, he's got to have this long, extensive interview in order to do this, and the recommendation might be for him to take anger management classes, or finance classes, or victim impact. There's classes that have to do with understanding what the victim went through, and so on and so forth. Especially since he has zero remorse whatsoever. And even the remorse that he tried to feign while he was being sentenced, he still was having nothing but excuses. So it just doesn't make sense to me. The guy just does not get it. They don't get it. No contact with the victims. No contact with the victims. Pay restitution in the amount of, and I hesitate to say this, but it is public record. It's $179,249 and 72 cents through Washington County Court Administration, with $10,000 to be paid by the date of sentencing. So by the date, which was December 30th of 2025, he had to turn in a check for $10,000. And a rate of $2,000 per month thereafter, established by the supervising probation officer. So the total amount that he has to pay is $179,249 and 72 cents. He's got to cooperate with transfer of probation to county of residence in case he moves. And then to be nice. To be really nice. Because as if this wasn't already nice enough. This is like the sweetest deal in the world, right? He has to pay a fine of $50, criminal traffic surcharge of a criminal fee surcharge of $75, which is waived. Law library fee, $10, waived. So his total that he has to pay is $50. $50. That's it. The amount due may not reflect all payments, credits, or all restitution owed. The $50. He can go to a website to make the payment or to view updated balances or payment information. Contact the court administration with any further questions. Blah, blah, blah. Judge, signed Judge Juanita Freeman, Judge of the District Court on December 30th of 2025. So that is the order warrant of commitment. It's different in Minnesota than it is in California. Mind you, in California, his fees would be in the multi-thousands because it's based as a percentage on what your restitution is. And then there's court cost in thousands and all this other stuff. I mean, it's really expensive. But the reason why she kept it at a whopping $50 for all his fees on top of the restitution is because she wanted to make sure that the money that he makes goes back to the family trust where it belongs. Because that's the money that takes care of Dad. You know, this doesn't even include interest, right? If Dad had kept, if all his money was kept in his equity account, it would have been producing enough interest to pay all of Dad's bills every month just on the interest. No problem. But they thought they were entitled to it, apparently. So, anyway, that's kind of where we're at. And then they sent us a separate document of the criminal restitution order, and then a document on general information about collecting a restitution judgment, etc., etc., etc. So I have a few letters here from the state or from the Washington County on behalf of the state in this case. It also talks about who his probation officer is, who the supervising probation officer is. I also have the name of the person who's going to oversee the actual payments and who credits his account when payments are made. So one of the things that they told me is that if he delivers a check, which has to be done by the last day of every month, to count for that month. So the end of January, before the last day of January, he has to pay a minimum of $2,000. He can pay more to get more of it paid off sooner if he wanted to, if he elected to do so. And that would be great. However, if he makes the $2,000 payment, just like the first payment he made, it's going to take anywhere from 45 to 60 days before we see it. And I asked them why it takes so long. And the reason is they want to make sure it not only clears, but that it has no possibility of being crawled back, right? So like you could go to a bank and say, look, I made this payment. It was a mistake. I need it back. You pay a fee to get the bank to bring it back, even after it's been cashed. And so they want to make sure that that can't happen, that it clears before they send it to us. And I wouldn't doubt if they're going to try and collect a little bit of interest on it on their side too. The more money they have sitting in their account for the county, the more that they will then receive in interest, which is what Dad should have been receiving, that interest, not the county, right? I mean, it's so maddening how this is all taking place. If if they had not, if my sister and brother-in-law had not stolen all this money, Dad would have been very comfortable. He would have been very. That's why he didn't worry. He didn't worry about whether or not he had enough money to cover the house in case something happens. If there was a fire or a tornado or something like that, he felt like in his heart he had enough money to where he didn't have to worry about it. Because at one point he did. He had enough money to where he didn't have to worry about it. And so he never had homeowner's insurance. He was self-insuring the house. So now, as a result of all of this, we can't self-insure. So I've had to pay an enormous amount of money to insure the home. So that's additional monies that Dad is now out. And he only gets $1,200 a month in Social Security. That's it. That's what he brings in. That's his money at 94 years old. So if you can imagine the stress that he is now under, that I'm now under, I try to shelter him from that because he doesn't need to know about all those details, you know. I just make sure he's fed, his medications are handled, which, you know, when I first got here, there were like 15 different medications. Now he's on like 3 medications, a vitamin B complex, B12, and then also he takes 2 Tylenol at nighttime in order to help him with cramping and things like that. But other than that, he doesn't have to worry about the edema anymore. He did have a mini stroke back in June. Last June, he had a bit of a mini stroke. And so they gave him medication for that. There's a statin and a blood thinner for that. Cholesterol medication. And then, but other than that, I mean, those are the charges. That's what he's doing. That's what's going on. There's a lot more as far as details are concerned. And I want to get more into the details. Like, for instance, the day we got back from the hospital, after their house was raided, they delivered a $2,600 refrigerator, top of the line, bespoke. The only thing that it was missing was the digital full panel, digital touch screen, you know, all of that. It's a smart fridge. I have an app on my phone that tells me what it's, you know, what's going on with it. It's really not, you know. Anyway, I got that fridge. When they moved out of the house, they left that behind. So I had the realtor give it to us. So the real estate company took care of us that way. But I also had the receipt for it. Here's the credit card statement. Here it is. So that helped. They were not pleased with that transaction, but that's all right. Anyway, I just wanted to run over these charges. The next video, I'm going to go into a lot more detail about some of the things that they did with their money, that with Dad's money, not their money, Dad's money, and everything from cars to whatever. When this first all happened, they thought it was in regards to, we had found the paperwork where they wrote out, they borrowed $8,000 for my nephew Jacob's car. They made 2 payments on it of, I think it was $300 or so that they were supposed to pay every month. They made 2 payments and stopped paying. And it had been over a year since they paid. So, and that was written down. They wrote it down. And then it just buried it underneath a whole bunch of paperwork underneath Dad's Dad's desk drawer. And I saw that and I was like, wow, okay. And the reason I saw it was because I was looking for the checkbooks. When I was here prior to May of 23, I was here a few months before, and I had just ordered new checks for Dad. because he was running really low. Gee, I wonder why. The guy never writes checks for nothing. You know, at that time he was 91, almost 92. What does he need checks for? And so we ordered new checks. Well, then when I came in May, they were on vacation and we needed to write a check for something. He wanted to write a check to the church. And there was only one little half book of checks left. And I just ordered like 5 books. Where did all those checks go? For a man that he doesn't do credit and he doesn't write checks. Where did it all go? So that's some of the things that how we started to piece things together to where something was really wrong. Anyway, I love you guys. I just want to make people aware of what to look for. If you have elderly people in your household or in your family, even if they don't live with you, go in and check on them. Check to see how many bank accounts they have. Check to see how many checks they're going through. And is that normal for them? If you know they never write checks, but maybe one a month or 2, but all their checks are gone and you just ordered them, little light bulbs should be going off going, something's wrong here, right? So look into those things. Look into those things. Especially for your older folks, run your credit report from TRW, Equifax, all of them, and see what pops up. Older folks, they don't go and apply for credit for nothing. But they had 10 lines of credit open under Dad's name. That's how I found those, was running Dad's credit report. And I wouldn't have even thought about it unless the detective, my light automatically came on. Must be, yeah, it's getting dark out. It's sunset right now, that's why it goes on. Anyway, the detective said, hey, can you check his credit reports? Because I have a feeling that something's not right there also. I said, okay, no problem. And that's what we did. And man, was I shocked. And plus we were getting little letters like, this credit card is delinquent. You need to make a payment. What? He doesn't have credit cards. Especially to like a computer store. And he would never have 3 Home Depot accounts with 3 lines of credit all maxed out. He doesn't do that. Trust and believe. He hates credit. He doesn't want to work for the bank. He doesn't want to work for the electric company. He sure as hell didn't want to work for the telephone company. Oh my God, the telephone company. He had a $20 a month little flip phone. That's what he had. They had like, they had 8 items that they added to Dad's $20 a month phone bill at T-Mobile. Dad used to pay $20 a month, period, for his little flip phone. Because he didn't need internet, he didn't need any of that other stuff. Just to be able to pick up a flip phone and make a call or receive a call. That was it. They added wearables, phones, and tablets. 8 separate items. His monthly bill was $530 a month. Check this stuff out on your parents' stuff, on your grandparents' stuff. Make sure that they're not being taken advantage of by a family member. Even if they were given, which Mark and Maria were never given authority to do any of this stuff. They weren't given power of attorney. They only had durable power of attorney. Durable power of attorney and power of attorney, in fact, are 2 totally separate things. Durable power of attorney is what was granted to them, and what that means is, should Dad get into an accident or get into a medical situation where he is non-responsive, he's in a vegetative state, and he can't speak for himself and he can't make decisions for himself, that is when the durable power of attorney kicks in, and then that's when they would have authority to be able to do some of those things. But there's a process involved, right? You have to go to court. You have to make sure that it's all legal. They didn't have that. They didn't do any of that. There was no reason for durable power of attorney to kick in. So then when I came here, Dad put me as the power of attorney in fact. That means all decision making is on me, regardless of what he says or whatever, because maybe he's got dementia, maybe he's got whatever. So he can still cognitively carry conversations or whatever, but he wanted to make sure that, first of all, he didn't want to worry about it. He didn't want to think about it. He didn't want to worry about his finances. He said, Patrick, I want you to handle everything because obviously I can't trust them. Not only that, he was afraid for his safety because he knows he's been manipulated. He knows he told me that there was something that they were trying to talk him into, and for the longest time he didn't want to do it. And finally he just gave up out of exasperation. That's what they do. That's what con artists do. And so and because he's elderly and there wasn't anybody like me here physically to step in for him, then I forgot what it was. It was something about their furnace or whatever. And he promised to pay back. He promised and promised and promised. Or maybe it was the roof, which he never paid back either. But anyway, so there's a lot of things that went on. But now that he knew I was here, I didn't even know I was here yet, but he knew I was here. He just kind of said, I need you to run all this. I need you to take care of it. Here's the keys. I'm no longer driving, by the way. You need to drive. That's a whole other story. Anyway, I just wanted to get this out there because I know some people have asked, I get text messages or whatever. And I have a lot of friends from all over the United States, and they're all wondering what all happened. So I'm putting out a couple, 2-3 videos a week just explaining all of this stuff, because elder abuse is a really serious issue. It is a very serious issue. I have watched that man go from scared and weeping to laying in a hospital after a major surgery because the trauma and the news twisted his intestines up, to now he's doing so much better, but he is just heartbroken. He is a heartbroken man. Everything he worked for 70 years is gone, with the exception of the house. All right. So with that, I will leave it right here because I've already been going on way too long. I love you guys. I'll see you on the next video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, please. Oh, and tell me, what would you do? What would you do in all these instances? And also, please comment that you promise to check in on your elders. Please, I want to know that people are going to check in. At the bottom of this video, just tap the comment and say, I will check on my elders. Please. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.